Yeah, so welcome. It's great to have all our members here to sort of delve into project management, Businesswomen Australia style. This topic came out of one of our online community hubs, our WA focused community hub. We've got a few members here on the call today who really wanted to understand, some of the tricks and the hacks that we're doing at BWA in terms of project management. So thank you for joining me. I'm Lyn Hawkins. I'm Businesswomen Australia's founder and our national director. And I'd like to acknowledge that we're all meeting on sacred sovereign Indigenous lands that's been lived, danced and celebrated on for 60 to 120,000 years around the country in some parts. I'd like to pay our respects to all the Indigenous elders, past, present and those emerging, and celebrate our Indigenous sisters in business. I'm here in Perth. I'm on very beautiful land of the Noongar people of the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, and in a really, really important area of Perth. It's a high part of Perth that's around the wetlands that were instrumental for Aboriginal people in their survival and care of this gorgeous place. So let me just go on. I might just quickly touch on this. I'm not going to go into the full usual introduction of BWA, but just remind us that we're all here as a part of a movement sort of contributing to the greater good. And so many of our female leaders, our emerging leaders in Businesswomen Australia, are really working hard, collaborating to help solve some of the biggest problems that we're facing, not only in business, but in our communities as well. And for those of you who caught a bit of that conversation earlier on, there's just such great examples of what women are doing and what we're participating in to educate, to problem solve, to close the gaps where there's really important needs that we're working on. So I really love the fact that we're attracting, women like you women that are here today. We couldn't do what we do without our collaborative partners. And I'd just like to acknowledge Catco Enterprises. Kathy and her team do all our digital marketing. Solo Accounts, our invoicing is done with the help and leadership of Donna Vincent. Intact Teams is Jessica Schubert. Jessica is our head of leadership development. She's the one that develops our leadership programs. Anne-Marie Cross, the queen of podcasting, our favourite Three Drops Wine, who help us with events all around the nation, and of course, Vida Carlino's inspiration space. So we've got a lot of events coming up. For those of you who are around in Perth, LG Accounting Solutions are hosting an event on the 5th of October in the boardroom after hours. Natasha Lee will be delving into understanding financial statements. Really important whether you're running your own business or if you're a part of a team or an executive, if you're on a board. This is going to be a really great overview of the important financial statements and how to read them, how to understand them, what do they mean. So come along to that. On the 7th of October, Melbourne BWA community have a virtual lunch, so they're all jumping online. If anyone from the other states want to meet any of the Melbourne crew, if you're planning a trip or if you just want to expand your network, that's a great one to participate in. On the 12th of October in the Mandurah-Murray region, there's a walk and talk. And on the 14th of October, we've got Katrina McElroy, who is our cybersecurity expert, and she's going to go through all the important and easy steps you can take to really make sure that you are secure. Sydney's got a walk and talk in the Domain on the 19th of October. And then, of course, on the 20th of October, back in Perth in Inglewood at the Inspiration Space, Vida Carlino is hosting a courageous conversation, cheese, chats and wine. And our focus for the October event will be self-care in the workplace. So we're really going to have a look at, what is it that we do as leaders to understand our own needs first. Often as women, we look after everyone else and we come last. So this is going to be a really great sort of sharing of and exploring of our own things. So Chatham House rules, what is said in the room stays in the room. Those conversations are limited to around 16 women. I think there's still a couple of seats left for that. They usually sell out. There's usually a wait list. So if you've been thinking about coming to one of those events with Vida, that's a really good one to come to. And the 26th of October, our Mandurah Murray crew again, going to have lunch at Jarrah Infusion. It's a gorgeous spot there for beautiful lunch. And on the 28th of October, we'll be down in Bunbury for the Southwest Panel Empowering Entrepreneurship. That's a collaborative event there. All the details are on our website. We'd love to see you, even if you feel like a day trip. I'll be taking a few people in the car. So if anyone's in Perth wants to come with me, give me a hoy. So I'm going to dive deep into lifting the lid on project management, but start off first and foremost with some facts. So BWA is what we call a lean enterprise. We've only had one full-time employee, Leanne Jeffrey, who's on our call today, who's our administration and membership guru. We've only had Leanne since June this year. So, we really, when we established, 6-7 years ago as a national enterprise, we really had to set up the systems and the processes that would enable us to be able to operate on a national scale very quickly with very limited resources. We had one full-time employee to start off with. And that was my co-founder, Jennifer Bryant, or Jennifer Crabb, she now is. So we've only really ever operated with one full-time employee. There was a time when Jennifer retired. So there was 2.5, 3 years pretty much before Leanne came on board, where we were operating with just me working 2 days a week and a part-time employee who was probably less than 10 hours a week. So it was pretty hairy, actually. So good having Leanne. We've got, so currently one full-time employee, one virtual assistant who's a wonderful, talented professional that we've got from the Philippines. She does about 22 hours a month for us, mainly on the sort of LinkedIn type stuff. She will do some ghosting for me, inviting our target audience for each of our different events. So we might have an event that, for example, Natasha's event coming up at LG Accounting Solutions. We know who Natasha's ideal clients are, and I'll sort of specify with my VA who to target through LinkedIn messaging and through our event online. And then we will invite those women to come along so that they get to experience Natasha. So that's what we sort of do to make each of our events very particularly targeted around who is in the room for our premium level member who's presenting, in addition to obviously all our members getting invited and our social media and all the things that you kind of see digitally. And of course, we've got solo accounts, our collaborators. They do our part-time bookkeeping, which we'll be taking over soon, bringing it back in-house, and working with our accountants, who we actually use LG Accounting Solution to do our accounting as well, by the way. All our digital stuff is done by Catco. So for a few hours a week, they will do all our sort of broad general social media shout outs for our premium level members. They'll do a bit of promoting for our events around the place and look after our website. So that's sort of done typically, and most organisations, you'd contract that with your web developer. You'd have a maintenance agreement and maybe some social media support and some sort of digital support. So you don't have to do it all in-house. I work 1 day a week on average with BWA, sometimes less, sometimes more. And on a daily basis, check in probably or every couple of days with LJ, just to check on anything that she may or may not need help with. And of course, we'll make sure that she'll email me if something needs happening or text me if it's urgent. So we've set up these kind of systems. The leadership team we have with our shareholders, including Kathy Smith at Catco and Jessica Schubert and our key stakeholders like Anne-Marie Cross and of course LJ now. We will meet quarterly and do a planning session. We'll go through all our financials. We'll look at our cash flow. We'll look at any key initiatives that are coming up and just make sure that we're doing that quarterly planning against our overarching strategy. We do 70 to 80 events a year. Some of that's a mix of online and in person. Even during COVID, we just made them all online, but now they're sort of trying to work out. I think one of LJ's hardest jobs at the moment is finding venues. Are they still operating? Will they accept private bookings? And very hard to do that remotely around the states. So we really are grateful for all our members on the ground in different states that can tell us, hey, here's a great venue, or here's a great business, or we'll host an event in our boardroom. It really does make our lives a lot more streamlined. We also, of course, have Anne-Marie running the podcast show, which is kind of like we're outsourced to her, but we stay involved with making sure that the premium level members know that they have that opportunity to be interviewed on that podcast show. And of course, the annual e-magazine, we get our premium level members who want to contribute to send their drafts in, and the CatCo team have actually taken that whole project on. It was a mixture of a contractor, part-time, and me and CatCo for a few years, but CatCo did a marvellous job this year, pretty much managing that. I did some editing of some of the articles, as did one of our comms part-timers, but pretty much they ran the whole thing this year, which was great. And of course, we have these different collaborations like the coaching accreditation course, the leadership development programs, business foundation program, and the scholarships that we announce throughout the year. And of course, the member social shout outs. I've mentioned the podcast show there again. Okay, I am just going to whiz through that into our key systems. So these are sort of what are the main systems that really run this business in the back end. We run off a Google Gmail. We use our Google Drive for storing and sharing documents. The Google Calendar we utilise a lot, and we've actually, both Leanne and I, use Calendarly. That's been a great way of helping us time manage, and it connects in with, so I'll actually block out times in Google Calendar that I'm not available to BWA in my Calendarly, and make what is available for any meetings, so that it makes it very easy for people to choose. Because, you know, just think about the amount of time that it takes just to tee up when I'm available, when you're available, when they're available, all that. So it's all visible. And if Leanne wants to organise something with me and her, she doesn't even need to get in contact with me. She just have a look in Calendar and see where the gaps are. Insightly is the CRM that we use. That was set up originally when we started the business. It has its limitations, but it's also very good for us to keep track of our comms. So we try and do all our emails with our members through there, so we can see, you know, what's going on with that. It's also linked and integrated into our Xero, so that we can see where we're at with our invoicing. It's also linked and integrated into our MailChimp system, so we can see, you know, who's opening, who's receiving, what's going on through our e-news, which is our monthly update to all our subscribers. We've got about 10,000 subscribers that subscribe to Business Women Australia News around the country. And of course, we use our Zoom events for these types of things that are public facing. And we also use Google Meet, you know, within our business unit, because sometimes the Zoom is being used by others. And it means that we don't have to buy as many licenses for Zoom. We can just use our Google Meets as part of the free suite for Google. And of course, we use Eventbrite for our ticketing. We looked at Humantics, which we would love to move across, but we'd almost, because we've been doing Eventbrite for so many years, we have so many followers on Eventbrite. It was just at the time too big a decision to move across. One day, perhaps we will move across to Humantics. I just love the fact that, you know, that they really got that social enterprise, social benefit in educating kids around the world with proceeds from the ticketing. Our social media channels, we have, of course, our LinkedIn. We have Each of us has a profile page, which we, you know, sometimes brand BWA. I wear so many different hats that I don't have BWA branding anymore. But we have our company page for BWA, where we also have all our events put up there. We have our group, which is an open group, but only members can post in the group. We have our Facebook, our public page, which has got, you know, massive amount of followers now, but we've also got our members only private group. Twitter, Instagram handles as well. And we use Buffer to schedule across all those, in addition to what the CatCo team might be doing on social. So there's a lot of activity going on through, you know, all those channels. We don't need to change our voice, I don't think, across the different channels. You know, there was this great debate years ago. You have a different voice on Instagram to Twitter, to whatever. We just use it for getting information out, educating people what's on, profiling our members, and so we just push it across all those through Buffer. And of course we use Canva. Thank God for Canva. That's cut our time down in terms of graphic design enormously. We've got all our branded colours in there. We pay premium on Canva, so we've got access to everything that we need, all the tools in terms of getting rid of backgrounds, resizing quickly. We can run videos, stitch videos up there. You know, it's just brilliant. Love Canva. Thank you, Melanie Perkins. You're my hero. Okay, so out of all of those things, just in the chat box, which of those things are sort of spiking your interest in terms of what you might like to see a little bit more of? I'm going to actually go into Asana now, which isn't listed there, but while I've got all that up, just out of interest, if anyone wants anything further down the track, let me know, because I'm going to just get rid of this and go into Asana. So don't need to say that. So Asana is our project management tool. Now Asana is, let's go up in here and see if I can open this. Right. How many of you, out of interest, have used Asana before? Just maybe raise your hands. Yes, Leanne's used it a lot. Okay, so Asana's, oh God. There you go. Submit my answer thing. Get away, go away. I don't want that. Just get rid of this. Isn't that funny? I'm actually doing exactly what they want, and they're asking me to submit my feedback. Okay, so the thing about Asana, it's very similar to most of the other. If you use a different project management tool, Erin, it'd be great if you actually pop some alternatives to Asana into the chat box for everyone, because you will have a massive list of them. And the reason why I use Asana essentially is because it's the one we started with, and I just haven't had time to look at anything else. So there may be something better, but the reality is I love it. And I can say, for example, here are our events for 2022. So this is our events board. You can see down the side here, we've got all our team. They've all got access to everything in Asana. We've got all our projects down the side here, the Buzz magazine, our members onboarding, all sorts of different projects, ranging from all the different plans right back to when we first started. We even did it's a lot of our strategy sessions, because we've always worked remotely as teams. And my original co-founder was working in the Southwest. We've got, of course, Jessica in Melbourne. We've got Anne-Marie Cross, who's outside of Melbourne. We've got members over in East Coast. We've got VAs in the Philippines. We're all over the place. So it's a classic hybrid team, and we're only doing bits and pieces. So this is where these kinds of tools are really amazing. So I can actually look at my events, for example, as a list or as a board. I can look at it as a timeline. But what I like to do is see it as this. So we'll have our online events along there. There we have lifting the lid on project management. We'll have our events that are in Perth coming up, our southern events, Bunbury in Melbourne. We've got a WeWork event coming up on the 2nd of December. Sydney events, Brisbane, Sunshine Coast, Gold Coast, Canberra. Nothing happening in Canberra at the moment. When we're running the Lead the Future program, we'd run things in there, retreats that we might be thinking about doing. any sort of sponsors, contracts, and member events, and then we just dump everything into completed events because quite often it's quicker to go and grab, if we're doing a similar event somewhere, grab the old event, duplicate the task and just change bits and pieces so we don't have to redo everything that I'm going to show you now. But I'm just going to jump into this event here today. So if I show you this, so this is something that Leanne set up. So Leanne's been with us since pretty much the end of June, first week of July. So in July, August, September, in less than 3 months, Leanne has become completely adept at running our events. And I have no doubt that it's because we've got these systems set up. We were able to spend an intensive couple of weeks together, side by side, and pretty much Leanne's been, running everything since then. So we would have in here who the host, if there was a keynote. If it was someone other than me, we would have all their contact details in here, so it's all central. We have all our costs. We have our Zoom links. We have, there you go, there's a passcode, 2021. That's where it came from. Caught. We got that one wrong. On the Online Members Hub, we have all our details in here. And then down here, more importantly, are all the subtasks. So for every event or any project that you will have your general planning materials. So you might use a PDCA cycle, your plan, do, check, act. Plan, what are we going to do? How are we going to do it? Why are we doing it? Who's doing what by when? All the planning cycle. Then the doing bit is how do we break that plan into every single step, task by task, and who is going to do the task. So this is really getting into process thinking. So breaking down every single thing. So for example, Sue was talking earlier on, Sue Daly, about tiny houses, so if it was a tiny house project, you would be breaking every little task down from the very first thing to right down through to who's doing it and when is the timeline, and you can set it. So for example, if I want to set something to someone, so if I wanted to, for example, market the event via social media, scheduling shout-outs in Buffer, I could have actually put that through to Kathy Smith and given her a date. Do it today. And when she's done that, she would tick that off, and then that comes through as it's done. So we can always find out what's been outstanding, what hasn't been done. So this is actually a really powerful little task pool. Up in here, we can add attachments. So the banners that LJ has created, the Instagram one and the Facebook, the banner for Eventbrite, it's all up there. She's also added the PowerPoint that she's done for me, and it's all there in the one spot. So it's not just an event management tool, it's a great storage tool as well. So we all know where to go to get whatever it is that we want. That is probably one of the most powerful things about this. When it's all done, so today I'll tick that off, that's completed, and I'll just drag it over and away into completed events. So we don't have to look at it, but I'll keep it because if we run another thing like this, like an online thing, down the track, it's still there in the system. And we could actually duplicate it, you go up into here, you could actually duplicate that task, change the dates, bring it back in and make it live again. And it's kept all those process tasks, so you don't have to rethink what were all these things. So at the end of every project that we do, we will say, what could we have done better? What do we need to add to the project task list, so that we're constantly adding those tasks, so that we were like, oh, we forgot to check blah, blah, blah. Let's add that in, put a check in. Or, oh, we found out that we had to get this extra, authority from council. So you'd add that in and say, well, okay. Then you start seeing, okay, there's all these extra tasks. What kind of resource do we need to go and recruit in order to do these kinds of tasks? So you're actually starting to build almost like a job description for future resource needs. If you find that there's skill sets outside that you're actually starting to have to use contractors for, but if it's actually a part of the process, it's powerful. I'm going to open up some discussion now to Erin. Can you have a chat to us about some of the project management tools that you have added there in the chat box?
Cool. So probably a show of hands. Is anyone on the call who uses Office 365? Okay, cool. So where Office 365's really good is everything's all in one place. So similar to what Lyn was just showing with Asana, everything being in one place. If you've got an Office 365 subscription, what it means is that all of the toys that are all part of that subscription all play nicely together. Have you used Planner before, Estelle?
No, I haven't. I'd actually used Trello before. But I haven't used Planner yet, so I'm really keen to give it a go, because I'm always looking for I love project management, and would love to find something that's useful like that.
Yeah, so so because I run multiple businesses, I absolutely love Office 365. So similar setup to Lyn as well, because we use a mix of onshore and offshore resources. So we've got a mix of team members who are onshore, who work for us on a project basis. We've got people who are effectively permanent, part-time, offshore, all types of things. So we use Office 365 quite extensively because it gives us a great amount of control. So like, for example, recently we had a VA that we had to exit quite quickly. And what that meant is with a few clicks, I could get control over all of her accounts, reassign her tasks really quickly, those types of things. So while it's got a bit more of an administrative overhead, if you're thinking about growing quite quickly, that's where Office 365 really starts to become quite powerful. And we use, so Planner is almost identical to what Lyn was showing us with Trello. Sorry, not with Trello. Trello is another one. So Planner, Asana, Trello are all effectively Kanban boards. So they all work in largely the same way. And what we do with Planner is I have multiple boards, one for each of the different businesses. So I've got two for Dark Story, one for the Exchange Collective, which is our consulting business. I've got one for the farm, and then I've got another kind of general admin one. So depending on who I'm meeting with, I just pull up the board for that particular project so that they're really focused on what I need them to be focused on. Because one of the challenges I have is that because we do lots of cool things, people get really excited about some of the history research, all those types of things. I'm like, no, we've got to do the accounting and the R&D tax claims, people. So that's why I have so many boards set up so that the team can stay focused on the things that are most important. And for those who are using Planner as part of that kind of Office 365 ecosystem, we have everything linked to SharePoint. So when so after this call, I'm meeting with one of our VAs, and everything that she needs to do for the week all links through to the documents as well. So if you've got SharePoint set up, then whenever you create that task in the board, so similar to what Lyn was showing in terms of Asana, you can link it directly through to SharePoint. So that's quite nifty. The other thing that I mentioned is what's really clever is Microsoft have a separate tool called Microsoft To Do. And what Microsoft To Do does is it aggregates across everything. So it will show in a single kind of view. I'm just opening it because I'm addicted to it at the moment. It has this great feature called My Day.
You can share it. I've given you multiple.
Oh, good. You can see all the things that So I'm just bringing it up at the moment. So you can see this is Planner. So I'll move this out of the way. It's very similar, as I said, to what Lyn was showing us. And what I do is very similar. So that traditional Kanban style, what are we working on now? What do we need to do soon? And then what are the things so that the team knows what's coming up? And so because we've got multiple VAs, what we do is I mark on them so that they can see, okay, what's the other person working on, what's still unassigned, so that they can put their hand up and say, hey, I've got capacity. And then we would move that out of prioritised and into doing. And then you can see they're all quite similar in terms of how they're set up. So you can see SB's been busy. And then this one is more our project-based one. So it's kind of got a bit more complexity to it because we tag everything as well. So each of these is a different project that we're working on. So this is, we're using it more for kind of project portfolio management. So this is kind of like my management helicopter type view. And having this at your fingertips is absolutely amazing because I was on a call with a grant group last week, and they put me on the spot and said, can you tell me what routes you're working on? So I was able to pull this up straight away and say, yep, cool. If you're looking for some routes to fund, I'll direct you over here. And we were able to walk through these straight away. So it was really handy having everything set up like that. So I was just talking about Planner, and I'll show you how Planner links in with Microsoft To Do. So this is Microsoft To Do here. And its beauty is its simplicity. And the thing that I absolutely love is this thing called My Day. So if you're anything like me, you always substantially overestimate what you can get done in a day. Does everyone relate to that? So my new practice, which is definitely helping my stress levels, is I'm very, very conscious about what I actually allocate to do in a day. And so what this tool does is it refreshes exactly what it says on the tin. It refreshes every day. So rather than you starting the day with this big long list of what you actually aspire to do, my new practice is at the start of every day, you can see that I've assigned nothing to myself today because after this call, I'm talking to my VA and then I'm going to the farm. So what it then does is it pulls out everything from Planner. It pulls out stuff from my emails. And then I can also add tasks separately in here as well. So it really helps me kind of know all the things I should be doing. I can hide them away and then really focus on the things that are most important. So as I said, it's my absolute new, completely in love with. And because I also work across multiple clients as well, I can also log into my different clients using their domains. So that's pretty much task management. Did you want me to show Hootsuite? Because I've got Hootsuite open as well, Lyn. So similar to what Lyn was saying, you can see I'm halfway through writing a post at the moment, so I'll save that. Again, because we have so many brands, so at the moment, I think we have 12 different social media accounts that we either look at on behalf of our clients or ourselves. And so Lyn was talking about Buffer. Hootsuite is the far more expensive version. So I would only recommend Hootsuite if you're as stupid as I am and have far too many social media accounts. Buffer is far cheaper. I don't know if anyone on the call started using Canva's now got that function as well, so be interested in anyone's experience with that. But let me get rid of all of this. But what makes these tools absolutely fantastic is you can start to see everything that's happening at that very much that calendar type view. I'm completely addicted to being able to see how far ahead everyone's working. We can easily adjust things a lot faster. So like Lyn spoke about the award that we were a finalist in recently, that completely meant that we had to change all of our social media posts because that wasn't what we were planning on posting. So it meant that I could come in here quite quickly and our VA, one of our VAs came in, quickly rescheduled everything, and then I was able to just jump in and tidy stuff up from my phone on the long weekend. So that was pretty nifty. So very similar approach. What this has, which is amazing, and Lyn, I don't know if Buffer has the same thing, is it will recommend, I'll look at a draft one, here we go. It will actually tell you the best time of day based on data as to when to schedule your posts. And I've got to reset them all up, but we also have like a whole pile of different dashboards so we can see our number, who's engaging with what posts, all those types of things quite quickly. So it's an expensive piece of software, but if social's kind of critical to what you're doing, I would definitely recommend Hootsuite, Later, or any one of those. They're all quite similar. The reason that we've got Hootsuite is just because we've got so many team members. It just gives us a bit of extra control compared to some of the others.
That's brilliant. Thanks, Erin. And it's an interesting dilemma that a lot of small businesses are in, is recognizing that quite often the free platforms and the low cost platforms are great, but as they scale, they do sometimes get more expensive than the ones that are more integrated or maybe more expensive to start up at the beginning. For example, our Asana at the moment, we use that's on a free version. We haven't needed to go up. I think the free version still allows up to 15 members from memory, nice. But Insightly costs us about $400 a month. So that we've, got the version that's fully integrated into our systems. I'm not a big lover of all these bitsy pieces, but it is the way it was set up, because it was set up as a very small business. And they're great systems. My preference is being on the Microsoft suite. It's more corporate, and in terms of getting through firewalls, in terms of emails, is so much easier. So, a lot of our Gmail accounts end up in people's junk boxes. So that's another issue. While I think the whole Google platform has just come so far since we first started using it, I did find that quite a hard thing to get used to. Is, in my corporate world, I'm using all these other sorts of more corporate and enterprise level software, and then in this business, it really gave me an understanding of what startups and SMEs were doing, because I didn't realize this is all about stitching things together. And while it is getting better, it is, if you've got the finance, and if you can, I think it's worth actually setting up your systems on more enterprise level if you're planning to scale. If you aren't, if you see your business as being a small lean business, as I think BWA doesn't need to be, we don't need to have 30 people working in this business. So this is actually a perfectly fine setup. In terms of cybersecurity, come on and have a chat when I've got Katrina online, and we'll have a really good look at how to keep those systems secure. I've found a fantastic program called Surfshark. Surfshark is a really great way to make sure all our devices, because I've got devices, that are sitting off our Wi-Fi that the kids are using and this sort of thing. So Surfshark, we've just put across everyone's devices, whether they're working in the business or not, because it's through those other kind of holes in the system that you can actually get hacked. So yeah, that's a whole another discussion. Are there any questions that we haven't answered? Let's have a little look. Maybe if I go around, Emma, how are things with you? What's on your mind?
Thanks, Lynn. I was just wondering, and Leanne, you might want to, feel free if you want to jump in on this as well. So I've got Michelle on the line, hiding without her webcam there. Hi, Michelle, who works with me in our program. And so we've been using some of those tools, keeping, lists and content planners and all those things. I guess my question is, how do you, when you're starting a project or planning an event, what advice do you have about how you describe a task so that it's really clear, to Leanne in your case, kind of what it looks like when it's finished, so that you're both really confident with kind of what it needs to look like and how it needs to play out. And I guess when you're doing something new, how is that different from when you're like repeating an event that you've done before?
This is, I think, where, and I'll just hand over to Leanne in a minute, but I think that it's really important to have the time to chat through stuff at the beginning, to think about what's the purpose to start off with, and if it's a project that's a problem-solving project, what problem are we solving, or whose needs are we meeting? Who are the stakeholders, or who are the customers of this project? So there'll be the end result, but there'll also be customers along the way, the other stakeholders that need to be involved. We're doing, take for example, the project that we've got down in Bunbury. If I hand over to Leanne, there was a lot of argy-bargy before we even got that project into Asana, wasn't there? Do you want to take yourself off mute?
Yeah, so with that one, pretty much I work in dot points. So, and anytime you see me write a letter, I pretty much write the same way. And so when these all come through, so with the Southwest one, we have not just us and Oz Industry and the Entrepreneurs Program, we've also got our Bunbury representative as well. So in it all, we've got about 6 people operating on one project. So what's happened is every time information has come in to me, I've had to actually store it in there. And I've stored it there with dates, with my beautiful dot points, and it now becomes accessible to everyone. And what happens is as that comes together, then you can start condensing. And as you condense, you go, okay, right, we've now agreed, because we've had to change the date. Okay, we've now agreed the date. This is it. So we can actually change, add, and because it's in dot points, we're constantly moving until we've got the flow of where we need to go. And then once we've got the flow and we've got the dates, it works really well, because then you can see where everyone's up to as we mark off each task. And I think it's good for Lynn, because we're not working side by side. It means she can also see just what I'm doing too. Yeah.
Has there anyone else want to share their experiences of how they do the pre-work around a project to ensure that the key action-oriented people, Emma and Michelle in this regard, are actually successful in delivering on the project? Are there any sort of insights that anyone else wants to share? Erin?
Yeah, I mentioned I've got a few different templates. So we've got different templates depending on what it is. So we've got a tour coordinator. So she does a lot of stuff in our back-end systems at the moment. And a lot of it is not clear. So she's got to kind of start working on it and then find what she needs. So for her, what we do in Planner is I write a task assignment brief. So it uses a framework from mining called CPQQRT. which is context, purpose. This is testing my memory. It's all in the template. Context, purpose, resources, timeliness, quality, and quantity. So it's always thinking about, so whenever I particularly assign SB a task, because it's always sort of like a mini project, is I write her a task brief. We jump on a call on Calendly together. We go through the task brief together to kind of go, what makes sense? What doesn't make sense? Have you got the context to what you're doing? Have you got any questions? We agree what we think is a realistic time. But most importantly, we also check in to say, okay, how complex is this task? So therefore, is it just to go away and do it? Is it an investigation and come back with questions? So we kind of, that whole quantity conversation is also about how we're going to manage ambiguity and complexity with that. So that's kind of that complete, like, very ambiguous type tasks, how we do it with SB. For where we do a marketing campaign, so it's a bit of the VAs, a bit of me, a bit of our copywriter, a bit of probably 5 or 6 different people coming together. So very similar to, and usually, so I've got a template that I use for a marketing campaign. So what's the goals, who's doing what, all that kind of stuff. And then that gets attached to the tasks in Planner. And then the third one is I have a event template that I use as well. So it's kind of like at that kind of overarching, who is the event for? What do we know? What don't we know? Yeah. So, and because we've been doing events in partnership, so very similar to BWA, because we were hosting events in collaboration with City of Perth and all of these other different stakeholder groups, that template was super helpful for the different stakeholder groups that we've been working with, particularly like women in tourism and those types of things. It's quite scary when you run an event with a whole room of event planners. They have quite different expectations about how things will run. So that template, again, and it's just that continuous improvement thing of every time you do something, you're like, oh shit, the template needs this or the template needs that. So this kind of, in summary, this probably, yeah, an event template, a task template, and what's effectively a project template. But I've got templates coming out of my ears from my consulting. So if there's anything that you need, just shout out, or I can literally just give you, I've got effectively a whole project management office in a box kicking around as well, but that's probably give you PTSD if you spend too long looking at it.
What this raises too is not duplicating everything that you can be doing online. So once you've chosen your project management tool, working together on that. So having, in the description, where we've got the dates and who's, all the outline around the event, even having above that what the purpose of it is, where it fits into the strategy, that could actually be really powerful inside that project management task thing. Now, beyond task orientation and steps, who's doing what by when, which is exactly what these project management tools offer, if we step back from that, we also have to say, how do we develop our teams and empower them to start to make autonomous decisions? So, with LJ, what I've found, and I hope you don't mind me talking about this, Leanne, but the reality is that every time we worked on things together, I would try and say, what do you think? What do you want? And Leanne's wanting to know, what do I want? What do you want? And so it's this sort of, it's a bit of a dance between me doing it my way, but also knowing that LJ's probably got an even better way of doing it. And particularly as she's going to be doing it more and more often, that the best practices are going to start going from what I've been doing to really what LJ then brings to this process and to the process improvement, and even to the purpose, elevating the purpose and seeing greater opportunities outside it. So while we use all these project management tools and they're great for efficiency and effectiveness, we have to be very careful that we don't just have our own teams almost being like our VAs, which don't get the opportunity really to actually bring the intellectual and creativity into the day-to-day running of the business. That will be our next goal, is once LJ is at that point where she's really starting to bring a lot more, and I'm seeing it already, you know, I'll text and say, hey, don't forget to do this, on it, done it, did it yesterday, whatever, you know, like I've added that in, it's done. And I'm just going, wow, we're like, you know, LJ will be telling me now what she wants from me to do to a process. And that is where it's very exciting, when that shift of empowerment and leadership comes to the owner of the project. And this is where we start to build cultures that are leadership-based cultures. So we know that all the tasks and everything that are the sort of like the core part of the business, they're all sorted because they're all in there, they're going to get done. We don't have to worry about that as managers. And our leadership then is going to come from the ideas that then those processes create freedoms for ideations and improvements and even questioning the way we do things. Once people know how this is how we do things, then they'll come and say, hey, actually, I've thought of a better way of doing this and I've changed the process. So I think, you know, while, you know, there's academic exercises around project management, I think picking the right tool and working in that tool, but with these overarching values around empowerment and growth and questioning, and it's okay to do things differently, but let's test it and trial it. We can always do this project this way and this project that way. Let's see how they go. You know, it's all those discussions before, during and after that actually bring about the great innovations that we have as organisations, and the ability to adapt and the ability to be flexible and keep meeting the ever-changing needs of our stakeholders. You know, when I look at what we used to do at BWA, when we first came out, we used to run what was called success circles. They were monthly circles. We had a coach. It was a program. It was rolled out once a month at the same time. You either could get there or you couldn't. It was, you know, 2 hours you came away and it was just really workshop based. And then what we realised was that members were looking for more than that. So this is where all these other things started springing up. And if we had a system and a process that wasn't flexible to bring about the new ideas or support new ideas, then we wouldn't probably be here today, still surviving. So, you know, overarching all that, just keep in mind, use these for efficiency and effectiveness. But you will need together as a team, the key team, the owners of the project need to sit down and work out exactly what the steps are that are unique for you and put them down. It takes a bit of time to do that. And then giving someone and all of you the opportunity to add more steps in. Like LJ can add in an extra step into those Asana lines. I can add one in. If there's a project that these steps aren't relevant, we just don't assign them to anyone or we delete them straight out. So I hope does that answer or help, Emma? Yep.
Yeah, it does. Something on a related topic, maybe a new topic. Something I've been trying recently. So for those that don't know, in my role, I'm connecting with a lot of stakeholders and supporting a lot of stakeholders, but kind of we're at the point now in the program where I need to, I guess, help them support each other so that I'm not required, you know, in every collaboration, every meeting, all those things. And so we've been trying a few different things. So one of them is, for example, some kind of regular meetings with different groupings of people where if an idea comes up or someone wants to promote something, I can say, oh, well, great, well, you can come as a guest to this meeting and you can promote it to everyone there. Or if there's something that we want to raise with some key people, we say, okay, we've got this kind of wheat belt meeting coming up in 2 weeks. I'll pop it on a little list and then we'll look at that list a few days before and then we'll choose what we bring up. And so that so far has been helpful in that if someone approaches me with something, I don't have to action it straight away. I can say, okay, great, like let's pop it in here, pop it in there. So Lyn, I can imagine that BWA is a little bit similar in that as you've grown, you've had to kind of do less things directly for people and maybe make more hubs for people to support each other. So I'm just curious if there's any lessons learned from that kind of leverage. So, well, this is something we changed so that we weren't doing all the things and replying to all the emails. So I'm just curious if there's anything we can learn from your journey in that.
Well, I think the biggest lesson is that everything is a big experiment, really, at the end of the day. We're all kind of, and I love this, it might have been Brene Brown who talked about failing forward, failing fast. I think that a lot of what I see with a lot of women in particular, I haven't seen it as much in men. I work predominantly with men, but having been, in this world of business women now for 6 years, I've been very surprised at women's need to try and get things perfect before they start something, or a lot of this sort of fear of failing, stopping, just having a crack and then working out then what worked well, what didn't work well, all that sort of thing. And I think that having those online hubs and community hubs has been a great experiment over the last 12 months. They came out of COVID when we were all online. Then we had a lot of connection now with people like you, Emma, that are in the regions and in remote areas that can't come to the in-person events. So when we got back to putting in-person events back on, we had to keep thinking, okay, how do we have this opportunity for online, and online that's also meaningful? So the community hubs the biggest challenge with those community hubs was finding a facilitator that was prepared to facilitate, this is an interesting one too, because we had a couple of women that sort of stepped down from doing that because they felt it was too much. Again, I think because of this mindset of feeling that they have to be good at it or perfect or have the answers. When you think about what the role of a facilitator is, actually it isn't to have any of the answers. It's to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to be heard, that, you're checking in, making sure that, there's a chance for everyone's inclusion, that you have a bit of structure to the meeting, get everyone to check in, get everyone to check out, thinking about, what the next topics are, all that sort of stuff. A facilitation role is quite simple. But again, it's, and even the community hubs run their course over time, so then they start getting the need to have a different kind of community hub, which you found out of this group, like after this period of time, then we started to say, okay, what's next? But I think the concept of creating hubs and peer groups is really important in any community. And if you can create it so that there's some structure for that community or peer group to have the opportunity to meet on a platform, and it's actually in their diaries and it's there, then it's up to them how they utilize it and grow it and take it from there. As project managers, as owners of initiatives, there's only so much we can allow and enable. At the end of the day, it's up to people to own it and make it happen. If there's someone that's waiting for someone else to fix it for them or someone else to do it for them, at the end of the day, it's not the project owner's fault that they haven't taken that self-determined approach to making something happen. If for things to have the domino effect, it takes people to take ownership. If it's a lack of skills or a lack of access to systems and processes themselves, then the focus might need to be on arming that skill development for those individuals so that they then know how to then go and make things happen. Because this is a skill set, project management, making things happen, being action oriented. These are all, it's all skills, but they're all skills anyone can learn. These are not, these are all skills I've learned a lot later in my career. I was very much involved in the high level strategy, facilitation, board, executive meeting stuff. What being thrown into this role in BWA, I've had to go, how do I do this stuff? You know, like it's been a long time since I was running teams, you know, that was in my middle level career, and tasking out stuff. And if someone in my 50s can learn this stuff without any help, a lot of Googling and looking at YouTube videos, anyone can do it, but they have to want to learn those skills and realize that it does take some investment in time, in knowledge building, in asking questions, in getting young people around you to show you how to do shit if you're older. You know, like, that's the reality. Not being afraid to ask the questions that you need to ask, and then understanding that it's going to be a little bit, there's a bit of discomfort after being at the top of your game to being the one in the room that doesn't know how to do anything and having to go through that learning cycle. But you know what? It's going to be good stuff for the grey matter over time if that continuous cycle of learning and relearning and learning something new, you know, that's, to me, that keeps me alive, and I love it. You know, I don't mind. I'm always happy to be the blonde in the room that's asking the dumb questions. So, you know, it's an interesting scenario you're in, Emma, and I'm sure others on this call are in the similar scenario. Is, you know, we're tasked to bring about change in our communities and support development and to support individuals and collectives to be empowered to, you know, make things happen. So it's a constant kind of picking through what is it that they need. You know, is it a mindset change? Is it a skill change? Is it a motivation issue? Are they there for reasons other than really making things happen? You know, what are the motivations behind each individual? And it brings to light some of the thinking that came out of the quality movement, which was to actually think about every individual within a project and map out who they are and what we know about what their personal needs, motivations, skills, everything around them as individuals. You're not going to see this on a project management tool, but it's very much around thinking around leadership development, culture and quality management change. The change managers on the call will be thinking, okay, this is what we have to do. You have to work out then who is going to be the leaders that are going to be the ones that are going to trailblaze and take, you know, the early adopters in terms of change and in terms of development, work with those, get some wins, then they will also be a part of this change team, rather than trying to, rather than being bogged down by the lowest common denominator. And I don't know if anyone else wants to share any experiences around that, but I'm certainly, all through my career, I've noticed that that's, you know, at the end of the day, sometimes you do leave people behind, and that's life.
Yeah, just as you're talking, Lyn, I'm thinking like some of the things you've mentioned, you know, event planning checklists and things, which I've used before, but we haven't used as much because we've been developing what we do. So we're now in a position to say we have a few different types of events. We probably could have a template. But yeah, there's some locations I just can't get to do these regional meetings. It's just not possible. But we could teach someone locally how to do it, and we could give them a checklist, and we could give them some templates, and then we could contribute some content. Whether that was information or whatever that is, and then empower them to run it locally. And I think we probably have some key people who would take that on. And at least then their stakeholders. I was in Mora a few days ago, and it's actually quicker from Perth, which is where I am today, than where I live in Williams. And I can't get to Mora for a quarterly meeting the way I can do in Northern. But I probably do have someone locally who could take that on.
Absolutely.
So I think it's also being a bit brave enough to kind of go, don't have to be in the meeting to kind of be supporting it and influencing that outcome. So that's kind of the transition we're in. Is like, what is ours to do, and then when is it our job to kind of teach and empower someone else to do it?
Absolutely.
So that it's not limited by our time and our effort. And then occasionally, you know, kind of you still. I mean, I still have to make peace with people are going to have opinions, and because I'm on a government contract, so I'm taxpayer funded, so kind of everyone gets to have an opinion about what I do, because you know you're all paying me effectively, whether you like it or not. So there's a whole other element compared to being in private enterprise where people are, you know, they're your customer or they're not. But yeah, there's always going to be the odd person who disagrees. I think you should have chosen us to partner on that event, or I think.
Isn't it interesting that we
often have to kind of smile and breathe and just kind of carry on.
And we often focus on the one thing that someone said that might have been a critical or negative thing, rather than that, you know, majority of people who are really happy with what's going on. Look, our Melbourne chapter is a classic. You know, I went and did a bit of a rah-rah yum cha event earlier this year got everyone out of the woodwork. They all got motivated, whole people joined. Then I wasn't over there. I was waiting for someone to sort of step up and do something. I've got a couple of local leaders who were talking about doing something, that nothing was happening. And then I had these 2 new members who got in contact with me and said, look, we joined BWA. It's a bit of a fizzer. Like, there's nothing in the calendar. And I went, yay, what are you going to do about it? So, even, you know, these guys are paying to be members, and I'm not telling them that they've got to now collaborate with us and make things happen in Melbourne. And I tell you what, they've stepped up. And they love it because they really wanted to have a leadership role there. And it's also about letting go to the way that I would necessarily do something, to the way they want to do it. That's the other side too. You know, I have a certain way I like things done, and I just have to go, hey, if they want to do it this way, you know, they're going to be the ones standing out there. As long as we've given them the sort of the tools that going to go through the basic stuff around what we stand for, our values, you know, what we're all about, all that sort of stuff that sort of kind of brands our events, then the flavor of those events can be however, you know, relevant to and symbolic of the type of characters in the room, and sort of trusting that that's going to be okay. And if it doesn't work out, and this again, it's an experiment, you know. So you know, you learn as you go along. But thanks. Erin's put a couple of really interesting resources in there around team roles as well. Thanks, Erin. I haven't checked out the Melbourne's team roles, but that sounds great. There's a free version kicking around out there. That's good. And she uses a one-page roadmap for stakeholders for dark story that could be super helpful. Who to talk to, focus your attention on the things that are important. Yeah, okay. Yeah, you know, so many of us are wearing more than one hat, and it does make things more interesting and sometimes more challenging. You know, prioritizing time is one, I think, of the key roles in life as your life gets more kind of mixed up with lots of different portfolios and projects on the go. Making sure that you spend time every week to prioritize and plan out your own week as a leader and as a manager, in order to then be able to be effective in how you then delegate, how you get others involved, how you pushing out stuff, asking yourself, is this something I need to do, or can I get someone else to do it, is one of the greatest and most powerful ways to scale. How are we going for time? I think we're just about there.
Did you want me, Lyn, to very quickly show, I just saw Estelle's comment about the one-page roadmap.
Yeah.
Did you want me to just really quickly show the roadmaps that I'm using?
While you look that up, Erin, Lyn, I've let Leanne know, but I mentioned about the brainstorming, the online sessions, to the Mann crew, and most of them said that would be something they'd be really keen to see happen. So, and this, I think what we're discussing today, I think there's a few things like Emma with her question. I think having a brainstorm around specific items like that would be more valuable.
Fantastic. Well, get us the date and the time you want to run it. And
well, I just said to Leanne, we'll just have a chat and see how often and when we want to do it. And then I'm still going to take you up on that alternating one-on-one with you, the way my calendar's going. So, because all this is really good, because for project management, obviously in construction, it's a completely different kettle of fish. So, yeah, we're trying to get our heads around in my construct, because I've used Excel spreadsheets for years, and trust me, those with a Gantt chart, they work brilliantly for construction, but I'm trying to get my head around an actual construction software, and it's so convoluted and like just does my head in. And trying to get Joe's head into that game, you know, old school Italian builder, it just doesn't work. So I still like my Gantt charts, because I'm working with subcontractors. I put a big Gantt chart up on site, and it keeps them focused as well, because you just can't get the trades onto the systems like this. But for Reno Rebels next year, a lot of this will come in handy. So, because that will be all
that's
female
true.
orientated, seems. So,
and the next generation of construction workers are more savvy around the apps, you know.
Yep.
So with Asana, everything, I have everything on my app. Insightly, everything's on my app. It's all on my phone.
Yeah.
So, you know, I can tick off my tasks, see see what the priorities are for the day, what tasks, did I stop doing yesterday, what's overdue, get onto that. So as the new generation come through, these might be a part of the onboarding and training that you have when you bring new people into your teams, is to get a little bit of, you know, a training on the systems.
we also use Toggle for time management. Like if I want to know where the time is being spent, I get Toby to actually work with that, just so I know where she's breaking her time up and if she's spending too long on one. I've actually found that pretty good as well to help with the project management, so to help keep things on track. So
yeah, awesome.
That's another little one. Over to you now, and I've had my bit.
All right. Cool. So I mentioned before about SharePoint. So we keep everything in SharePoint. Can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
Yeah, awesome. So we keep everything in SharePoint so that it's all relatively neat and tidy. And we have a few different versions depending on the stakeholders that we work with. So the challenge that this solves with Dark's story is because it's a relatively new startup. There's lots of, hey, you should do this, hey, you should do that. But what we're finding very quickly, so similar to Emma's challenge of all of these different stakeholders coming out of the woodwork and saying, can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do that? And what it helps us do as part of conversation. So this is our really simple one, just done in Canva. So very, very simple. So if I was just engaging with someone off the street, I would use this version to really help them hone in and go, okay, cool. I'm in such and such, you're not doing that till next year. So we're kind of starting to help people understand now, soon, and later. So who do we want to talk to now? Who do we want to talk to soon? And who do we want to talk to later, so that we're not in every meeting and not getting time to do this stuff. So that's the super high level one. I also have a very detailed one for, so this is one of the ones that we use predominantly for government stakeholders who need more detail, so you can kind of see how that all fits together. My magical graphic designer did that one. And then we also have a 12-month one. So we find some stakeholders are very much want to talk about now and what's happening now. So this is the one that we pull out when you can see it's a little bit out of date, this version. But it really helps us plan conversations about. So this one here is, you know, it's been quite interesting because it helped us bring on a food partner by having these conversations. It helped us work out what not to do for Christmas. So in its simplicity, it's actually been fantastic because people go, okay, cool. What you're actually looking for is you're really focused in a city around hospitality right now. And so that's been having these types of formats. And I think it's, so I very simplistically, like in a corporate world, I would use my big words, but in startup world, I always talk about now, soon, and later, as a way with different stakeholders to really get them on board about where we are and what we're doing and those types of things.
I love that. And I'm a very visual person. So immediately I can see straight away enormous amounts of information that has saved me reading, you know, a page per topic. You know, it's obvious then what that roadmap is, and that's brilliant. I love that. I think that's just says so much, and then it can be used in so many different ways.
But Sue can do the same thing in Gantt charts too, with all of, so you can use the roll up, roll down functionality and creating sub projects and those types of things. Microsoft Project can actually be super, super powerful for doing high level and detailed. When you're familiar with it, you can use all of the different features that are in there you can pretty much run everything out of that, because it's got some really nifty stuff that you can do with like custom columns and all those types of fun things.
I only have one question, Erin. How did you come up with the name?
The intro, because we can't afford the O. So it's, everyone refers to it as Dark Stry, but and if you're dyslexic, it reads as Dark Story apparently. So and as a startup, it's expected for us to have a poorly spelt name.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Erin. That's just brilliant. And that's a really great way to round off our discussion and our deep dive in lifting the lid off project management. So much, there's so much that we could cover in any one of those systems and processes, but I think this has given a really great case study, and lots of different case studies within it too, of, you know, the various flavors and ways of managing and identifying aspects of projects and being able to then successfully implement them, and recognizing that it's a continuous improvement cycle. So, you know, we do everything the best we can at the time with the resources that we've got. And then as we build our learning and our understanding, then that builds also then the opportunity to keep improving and then adding more resources to it, so that we, you know, building from those lean canvases fairly rapidly into whether or not we need more systems and processes, or whether or not we can work with contractors, or whether or not we need to build our team, and which roles are priorities when. And really at the end of the day, anything really comes down to the talent of the team that we've got working, and their ability to be a part of working in a process and doing the tasks, as well as thinking about how do we do this better next time. So thank you everyone for being here and for the great idea for the topic. I think that came out of your group, wasn't it, Erin, Emma? Yeah, brilliant. It's such a great topic. And so we've kept a recording. We'll probably stick this one in the back end of resources for business women. Although I'll probably be happy to put it, I don't know. I'll have to chat to Erin. She's shared some IP in there as well. Be happy to put it out in the public realm, really. I want every woman who's running any kind of project to be able to access this kind of information. So it's all good. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Lynn. Thanks, Erin.
We'll look forward to the next brainstorming session, Sue Daly.
Yes, no problems. Let's make it happen. Even if it's not this year with everything coming up to the Christmas, even if it's something we start, especially I think January, February.
I think that's
just
a brilliant
to get
idea.
people focused and getting ready, because I know when we did, remember Lynn, when we got you out for Mandra Murray for that first year, that first one to kick it off, I think that really made a difference. So these brainstorming sessions would help. So
yeah, awesome.
all right. Thank you, ladies.
Okay. Cheers.
Thanks. See ya.